Mindfulness is the ability to place your attention on what you would like to place it on, and then hold it there. And in our culture, where a billion things per second are calling for our attention, and our attention is used to jumping and bouncing and becoming exhausted and then overextending itself constantly, we look at the person we love, but we're not capable of actually hearing them or taking them in. It becomes very problematic and even unloving. The Zen teacher John Tarrant Roshi once said, "Attention is the purest form of love." There is no difference between love and attention, and your ability, your willingness, your courage to place your attention on this other person who's so important to you and has so much power to hurt you without an agenda, but to just actually hear them, take them in, feel them in your heart, is love. Usually when we listen to the person we're in a relationship with, and the closer we are, the more this seems to happen, the less we hear them and the more we hear our hopes and fears that are evoked by them. So we're actually not even really relating to them. We're relating more to what we hope and pray will happen, or what we are terrified will happen. So mindfulness is not just a stress reduction technique or a relaxation thing. It's actually a form of courage. It's you saying to the person you love, I will let my attention on myself go for now so that I can feel and hear and see you, and then see what happens next. So a relationship without attention becomes a strange bargain of people who are trying not to hurt each other. And I think we can do better than that. So when you think about what relationships are, of course there's a billion zillion ways to look at this. In the Buddhist view, you could say that they are karmic. And I don't mean that in some woo-woo, everything is preordained sense. I mean that sometimes you meet someone and something happens and you can't really explain why. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, and I've probably done this myself in my younger days, where you think who you want to fall in love with, and you might make a list. Well, I want them to be nice, I want them to be smart, I want them to have a car, I don't know what you might say, funny and a good listener. And then you might actually go out and meet someone that has all those qualities, and you feel nothing. And then you could meet someone that maybe has none of those qualities, or qualities you never thought of, but something just zings, and you feel something that you can't explain for that person, and there's no telling why. And that's one of the things that makes falling in love so beautiful, so mysterious. And one of the equally interesting things about love, and why it's so important as spiritual practitioners, and why it is a spiritual practice itself, is that it's one of those rare things in our life that we cannot game. Love and heartbreak are two things that we can't make them be there when they're not there. Doesn't matter how smart you are, what a good plan you have. And when they leave, you can't make them be there when they're not, and you can't make them go away when they are. They're bigger than us. And so the spiritual view, the wisdom view, is that when you find yourself in such a situation where you cannot game it with your tricks or ideas, you have a real opportunity to learn and go way beyond what you thought you were capable of. So maybe one of the reasons we have relationships, one of the reasons we fall in love, is to actually see how much we are capable of loving. And yeah, I'm just thinking of when I fell in love. It was like suddenly waking up on another planet, a good planet. And it was a sacred thing. I mean, it was also an awesome, sexy, wonderful, fun thing, but at the same time, it was like an altered state, in the best sense of the phrase. It is a natural and understandable misconception to equate mindfulness with calm. but it is not. They are not synonyms. Mindfulness means being with what is. And sometimes what is calm. And sometimes what is terrifying. And sometimes what is chaotic. Mindfulness is not about converting everything you experience into some sort of a equal tone. It's about going in fearlessly to what you do experience with your eyes and your mind and your heart open, without knowing if you're going to, without knowing what you're going to find. So when you fall in love, it's actually almost easier to remain mindful in the sense that all you can think about is the person you're falling in love with and what it means to be in love. And everything you see in the world somehow is filtered through this lens of falling in love. And there seems to be a kind of integrity and harmony that might have been missing before, because you are in this state of just openness and desire and love that often people think are weird tricks, but those things are friggin' real. And when they happen, and I hope they happen to everyone, it's a really, really amazing and good thing. One of the interesting things that happens both when you fall in love and when you lose love is that your heart seems to be open to everything and everyone. It's choiceless. You feel other people's sorrow and you feel their joy. And in Buddhist view, this is called compassion. So in a sense, mindfulness isn't just about being attuned and calm and, firing good things in your amygdala and so on. It's about opening your heart. That's the real use and beauty of mindfulness. It gives you the courage to be open. It may sound cliche to say there's nothing more vulnerable than falling in love. Nonetheless, be it a cliche or not, it is true. It's very tempting when you fall in love, because it's so scary, to actually take yourself out of the flow of what it feels like to relate to that person and instead place your attention on, will this person hurt me or make me happy? Will I be able to make a life with this person? Does this person even want to make a life with me? And those are totally practical and good and important questions. But it's really easy to let the love fall to the background at some point, and the questions about where this is going and what does this mean come to the foreground. They're both really important. But mindfulness helps us not to forget about all the important questions and only feel love, because that would be silly, but to know what we're doing. Oh, right now I'm fully immersed in being in love with you, and right now I'm afraid, and right now I'm questioning and doubting. And to see what's happening in your mind, that is courage, to be able to see it. In meditation practice, you place your attention on the breath in mindfulness practice, and when it strays into thought, which of course it will, you notice that and you let go, and you come back to the breath. Every time you notice and let go and come back, it's like flexing that muscle that enables you to return your attention to the present moment. So we practice doing that with the breath in meditation, not so that we can be awesome breath followers, but so that we can place our attention on our life, which takes courage, because we need to let go of our judgments and hopes and fears. And that's what meditation and mindfulness teach us to do, to let go of those things which we use for protection, and instead attend to what is happening right now. In my mind, there's nothing more courageous than that. One of the really interesting things about falling in love is, and I've just noticed this in myself and others, is that the closer we get, the less we actually see the person we're in a relationship with. It's so weird. Like, at first, it's like, wow, you're just in love. It's wonderful. It's scary. It's exhilarating. yay. There comes a point where you may decide, oh, this is a relationship now. One of the very interesting things that nobody tells us is that love affairs and relationships are not the same thing. We want our love affairs to turn into relationships, and we want our relationships to be love affairs. That's very rare, that one thing can be both. So just having that view, am I in a love affair? Can it be a relationship? I don't know. As opposed to just assuming we have to put it through some sort of relationship machine so that it becomes whatever it is we think we want. To just start to be able to notice, oh, this is totally a love affair. I'm sure most people can relate. You are in situations in your love life where you're like, this is amazing, but I can't really see introducing my friends to this person, or, celebrating holidays, or whatever it is. And not every love affair is going to turn into a relationship. So that's just one thing to be mindful of. And that's okay. The more we are in love, the less the other person appears in our mind, and the more our hopes and fears about what they might mean to us arises. And that's very dangerous, because instead of hearing what our loved one is saying, just as words, we hear what they're saying as something that might hurt us or help us. And we miss them. We miss them completely. So that's very painful. And it turns falling in love into some kind of a strange bargaining session. And it takes a lot of mindfulness to even know that that is happening. It doesn't mean you avoid having that happen, but it means you are at least aware that it's happening. And with awareness, you have choices. When there's no awareness, you are led around by the nose. So it's so important to bring mindfulness and awareness into a relationship at any stage, but especially falling in love. Because those qualities make the difference between being actually loving and negotiating something. Passion is so tricky. And Buddhist practitioners, some will say it's a problem. Like the Dharma is based on non-attachment and non-grasping. The first noble truth is life is suffering. The second noble truth of the Buddha is grasping creates suffering. So it's like really important. It's the second noble truth of the entire Buddhist path. So how could that possibly relate with falling in love, which is all about some kind of attachment? I think I would really love to take the sting out of the word attachment. I find that it's a word that people use when they're angry at you for getting upset about something that they don't think you should be upset about. And people say, oh, you're so attached, in this sort of way that really pisses me off. Of course we're attached. We're attached to our happiness. We're attached to the people we love. We're attached to our longings. My interpretation of the Buddhist view is that those attachments are not the problem. It's thinking that they will make you happy that is the problem. And that when they don't, that you need to transfer your attachment to some other person or situation, because that's the one that will make you happy. I honestly think that is more the problem. I remember once I was talking to someone, this was a long time ago, a long-time Buddhist practitioner of like 30 years, who had just moved in with a girlfriend who was a lot younger, and we were like, can it work out? He was not sure. She wanted, right? Maybe she'd want to have kids, and he didn't want to, and so forth. And the words that came out of my mouth, without my knowing that I was going to say them, was, yeah, sure it can work, as long as you don't expect it to make you happy. Which is kind of an odd thing, because why are you in a relationship and you want it to make you happy? And sometimes they really, really do. But that's not why we have them, I don't think. I'm not in a relationship with you so that you can make me happy, and my job is not to make you happy. Our job together is to explore what it means to be happy and what it means to be unhappy. And attachment to our view of happiness and what I need you to be to make moi happy, that's a problem. This is a very difficult thing to do. I don't know that I know how to do it. There's a view in Vajrayana Buddhism, which is the school that I practice in, that says that emotions are a source of wisdom, profound wisdom. There are other Buddhist schools that say they are obstacles, and everybody's right. Just depends on what your karma, your practice, your view is. But the view, this is what attracted me to being a Buddhist altogether, was when I read that emotions could be a source of wisdom, and that strong emotions could be the seed of spiritual warriorship. I was like, I'll have what he's having, because that made me feel like, oh, I don't have to become some sort of blissed out zombie. I can be myself. So in the Buddhist view, in this particular view, passion is seen as a problem, but it also holds the seeds of liberation known as discriminating awareness, which is kind of a funny spectrum to imagine. On one end of the spectrum is grasping, and on the other end of the spectrum is discernment. So in this view, passion and aggression and greed even are seen as poisons that could actually become medicines. So passion, for example, in our situation, means I want it, I need it, and you stop seeing everything that isn't that thing that you say you want and need. Everything else falls away. But when you can connect with the energy of that longing and the ability to focus so precisely on what is happening and then allow it to expand, your ability to discern and to have discriminating awareness blossoms. So passion, in its sort of, I don't know what you call it, negative manifestation, is a source of great suffering. But it also is an invitation to let your longing fire and let it color everything you see, not just this one person. And then you have this super rich sensory experience of your world. So that's not so helpful when you're wondering if someone's going to call you after you just had sex or something like that. But it is still a helpful way to look at passion, I think, as this fire that kind of makes the whole world more colorful.